How's it going? Welcome to the second episode of Backseat Rants. I, of course, am Backseat Hero, and I just want to start off by thanking all of you for watching the first part and subscribing and liking and commenting. That was more support than I expected. Last time I checked, we had over 40 views, and I didn't expect that at all from the first video, so thanks a bunch. That means a ton to me. Hopefully, as this channel grow or continues to go on, we will grow, and I just wanted to start off by thanking you. So yeah, be sure to keep the views coming. Please spread the word about the channel if you can. Leave feedback in the comments, subscribe, just keep going, keep supporting me. Thank you. Me and the Not Dead Robin really appreciate it. Alright, moving past my horrible face, let's get to the stuff you guys really care about. I want to start out by apologizing for my voice. I've had a bit of a cough and my throat still hurts pretty bad, and so if my voice sounds off or anything, then that's why. It might not, I don't know. But yeah. So today, as I stated last week, I'm moving on to the individual movie companies and discussing their films as a whole and my opinions. Today we are talking about my love, the DC Extended Universe. I am going to start out by just giving you guys an overall about how I feel the DCEU is going, and then I'm going to delve into the specific pros and what I love about it, the specific cons that I feel it could improve on because it is just starting out, and no film is perfect, as I stated in the last episode, and kind of finish up by summing up all my points once again, telling you guys where I feel the future of the DC films might be going, and establish why I believe DC movies are superior to the Marvel Cinematic Universe for fans of DC Comics and their film style, like myself. So, to preface where I'm coming from, I mentioned this briefly in the last video. I am a huge DC fan overall and always have been my whole life. I grew up watching Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, the Justice League Unlimited. I watched Michael Keaton Batman, Batman and Robin with George Clooney. I loved as a little kid. I now understand why that's so horrible, but as a kid, I really enjoyed it. Still love Batman Forever. Christopher Reeves was really Superman. I've always loved comic books. And growing up, though, my extent of comic book knowledge was mainly DC, and then I knew Marvel from the movies they had at the time. So I loved Spider-Man, I loved X-Men, I enjoyed the Fantastic Four movies once again because I was a kid. And it was really good. I loved Marvel. And as I started getting older, I started reading the actual comics that my childhood was based off of, and I really enjoyed Marvel Comics, and I started to really grow attachments to these Avengers. And when Iron Man came out, my mind was blown, and I really enjoyed it. And so that's kind of the perspective I'm coming from. I got into Marvel because it had similarities to DC, but DC has always kind of been my foundation. And so I really feel like I'm always going to have more of a traction and a pull towards DC movies because of my connection to them as a child. The thing that's always gotten me into DC Comics is it's not your typical superhero. You got Superman, who is your typical superhero, but lately, as we've been seeing in recent years, has a lot more deep emotion than we usually see. Then we got Batman, who is not a superhero. He's a vengeful vigilante, and he's angry and brutal and dark, and he takes on some of the darkest villains we've ever seen. And then we've got, just to cover the rest of the Trinity, we got Wonder Woman, who's this completely amazing character, the first ever female superhero. And she's a Greek myth. She's an Amazonian warrior that just happens to be part of a team of superheroes. It's not like your typical someone gets superpowers and decides that they're going to do good with them. She was raised as a warrior, and she just happens to have enhanced abilities compared to humans. And she decides to leave her home to defend the world of man, which is awesome. And each one of the characters in the DC universe has such a deep connection to heroism and justice, and each one has their own take and their own perspectives, and they clash all the time. And then you get these unlikely alliances, like the Flash, who is respected like above everyone else by Batman. Batman loves him and says if his parents hadn't died, Barry Allen's the type of person he'd want to be. And we get this massive universe with multiverses and Crisis, and it's awesome. And I really feel like the DCEU is bringing that to pass. And the next movies, the next installments, Justice League, Wonder Woman, the Batman, Flash, Aquaman, Cyborg. I really feel like we're going to start delving into some really deep comic book stuff that we haven't seen in film ever. And that's why I love them so much. They tell a deeper, more emotional story. It's not like a cookie cutter plot like we usually get from Marvel, which I'm not saying is bad. Marvel sticks to a more traditional, here's the story, follow along, exposition, conflict, following that little story arc. DC, we get a more structured, or a less structured, more sophisticated style of filmmaking that's told through emotion. It's all character based, and you kind of have to figure it out while watching it instead of just, having the movie walk you through it. And that's what I love about it. Batman v Superman, this is going to be very controversial, but Batman v Superman was my favorite superhero movie of all time. The Ultimate Edition. The theatrical cut I really enjoyed, but the Ultimate Edition was just fantastic. Suicide Squad is tied with it. Up to that point, Dark Knight was my favorite. Batman v Superman took it. Then Suicide Squad tied with it because villains are where it's at. DC will always trump Marvel in villains, and I will fight anyone who says that. I do not like to participate in the conflict, but villains are always something I will fight about. They are very near and dear to my heart. I love DC villains because they are so deep, complex, and have a lot more character development than some of the heroes. It's amazing, and I think Suicide Squad captured that perfectly, and I cannot wait for the extended edition because Jared Leto Joker is... I want to see more. So what do I think the DC Extended Universe has been doing really well with its films? Superman, as much as I enjoyed him as a kid, as I grew up, I didn't really have as much of a connection to him as I did to Batman or even Aquaman because he just never had emotional development or very apparent emotional development. It always kind of had to be something you had to look into the comic books for. And you had to, look because he was this paragon of hope and prosperity and the American dream, which is amazing. But there was never really anything that I could relate to. He was an alien from another planet with these amazing superhuman powers, and he could deal with any threat head on, and he was a savior, and he was awesome, and he had really fun adventures. But other than that, he was a cardboard cutout that was thrown in to fight. And he was happy all the time, and he cracked a few jokes, and he's entertaining. But then Man of Steel comes out, and it does something that I have not experienced since the Earth 1 comics, which, by the way, if you have not read Superman Earth 1, go check it out right now. It's amazing. It gave emotional depth to Clark Kent, to Superman. You get to see Krypton. You get to see the sort of environment we're coming from. This isn't like the utopian society we see in the Richard Donner movies. This isn't like this beautiful... It's a beautiful planet, but it's not like crystal pristine and everyone's happy. There's conflict. There is war. And there's insane things going on. It kind of sets the tone for the DC Extended Universe as a whole. And Clark comes to Earth, and it's far more realistic. His parents are more concerned with him hiding his abilities than they are with him using them. And he grows up with this inner turmoil of wanting to be human and wanting to blend in, but wanting to use his abilities to help people and not being able to find the balance. And that emotional depth is what makes the DC Extended Universe so amazing to me. I felt bad for Superman. For once in my fan life, I wasn't watching him and just being like, oh yeah, he's perfect Superman. Oh look, he's gonna lose, but I know he's not. Like, I was scared for him. And that battle in Metropolis was insane because it's not like a lot of people point out where it's like they just destroyed everything that's not without caring, and DC fanboys don't want to point that out. No, I felt that. I was horrified for the people in Metropolis as the city was getting destroyed. It's not like I was just sitting there watching, ooh, cool, awesome battle. It was an awesome battle, but there was devastation, there was destruction, and Superman felt it. There's a reason why Superman doesn't smile as much as Christopher Reeve smiled. Henry Cavill does an amazing job. Henry Cavill does an amazing job of being my Superman. He is my Superman. Because he shows the emotions in such a relatable, realistic way. And he can feel the death of every single person in Metropolis and Gotham as him and Zod are going at it. And when he finally, at the very end, was forced to kill Zod to spare the remaining lives, it destroyed him. And he had to rebuild from there, and we kind of see it in Batman v Superman, and I hope we see it a whole lot more in Man of Steel too. He had to change who he was to become that symbol of justice that he wanted to be. And obviously he did, and people started believing in him and loving him. But realistically, there was fallout. There were people who blamed him for the incident. And it sparked this whole controversy about the most powerful man on the planet, which makes a whole lot of sense. We have that same thing with political power. If someone came down with just as much political power as a dictator, but in the form of physical abilities, we'd be scared to death. Or a lot of us would be, and it would generate this controversy. And that's where they start getting the good side of Batman that I've always wanted to see in a movie, that they touched on in Dark Knight, but really drove home, is Batman is not a symbol of heroics. Batman is pure, unadulterated justice. This is 10 years after Robin has died. He is darker. He is angry. He blames himself for Robin's death. He is brutalizing criminals. Then these aliens come down from the sky and destroy his city and the neighboring city across the bay, reducing it to rubble, killing thousands. And one of them is still alive. And he has the potential of destroying everything. At this point, there's nothing he can do to stop this threat, and it eats at him. And he just can't live with himself knowing there are threats like that out there. And so he starts killing. He doesn't necessarily have the goal to kill, but he doesn't care about saving these lives anymore, these villainous lives, because it doesn't matter. They're criminals. They don't matter to him. They're a threat. They're gonna die. So he brands them. And he starts learning in prison that when he brands them, they die. So he starts branding even more people. And you see a lot of this in the Ultimate Edition. So if you haven't seen Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition, go do yourself a favor and watch it, because it is a huge improvement on the theatrical cut. But anyways, we start seeing this progression of Batman, or more like a de-evolution of Batman to this dark, evil, brutal character. And then the final build-up to the climax. Lex Luthor's been stirring the mixing pot, been using his genius to anger them both and get them to fight each other. And we get this beautiful resolution where Superman, in his dying breath, hating Batman, going to confront him and deciding he's going to kill him, when he starts losing and realizing that he's probably not going to make it out of there alive, he uses his final words to plead with Batman to save his mother's life. Sure, the name Martha is what catches Batman off guard because he just hasn't heard the name since his mother's death. But he is about to murder somebody in essentially cold blood, and that man uses his dying breath to plead with Bruce to save his mother. And it's that moment where Batman realizes that he has become just as evil as the man who killed his parents. And we see the shift. He gets into the Batjet and tells Alfred that he does not deserve him. And then in Suicide Squad, he starts arresting villains and saving Harley Quinn instead of killing them or letting her die, because he cares now, and he failed Clark in life and is going to do his best to not fail him in death. And that arc is beautiful. And people need to stop focusing on the flaws and accept the pros. I see so many flaws in Marvel movies, but I am not sitting there chewing out Marvel fanboys for enjoying it, because there are a lot of positives to Marvel movies. The cons to DC movies are apparent. There's plot holes, they don't communicate the plot as well as they maybe should, and they're targeting a specific audience without bringing in elements of their movies that could extend to larger audiences. They don't they have moments where they add a lot of confusing hints towards things in the future that you could really only get if you're a comic book fan, and it kind of derails the plot for people who don't know what's coming next. The tie-ins to future installments seem forced to some people. I personally love them, but it's not the typical movie general audiences are used to, and that is the biggest flaw I see. But I do not think that is something that should be repaired, because that's what keeps them apart, or sets them apart, and keeps DC fans happy. So moving forward with these films, I really have high hopes. Shout out to Film Theory for this, because it blew my mind. If you guys haven't looked at his channel, you should please go check it out. I'll put the link in the description. He did this awesome video about multiple Jokers, and he touched on the multiverse and the crisis of infinite Earths, and I really think that's where they're going with this. They're building towards this huge, massive world, and I really think they're going to try to differentiate themselves from Marvel as much as possible, and that means tying in their television shows. Marvel does a really good job of building multiple different universes, but they don't really cross over too much into the films. I really think DC is going to build towards some big installment where Ezra Miller and Grant Gustin are going to meet up, and we're going to have two Flashes, and we're going to have this massive crisis event where the DC television universe is going to meet the DC extended universe, and everything's just going to blow up. It's going to be awesome. And if that's not the direction they're thinking to go, I'm really excited to see anyways, just because I love these movies, and I love the vision, and I just can't wait to see what they're going to do. And so that does it for this video. Thank you for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Next week I'm going to start discussing Marvel, and that one's going to be more pro and con oriented. This one was way more pro oriented. Like I said, I'm a DC fanboy, so the cons didn't really come out as much. I honestly don't see too many negatives. I don't see the negatives that the opposing side sees, and that's alright. Those movies aren't made for them, and even if they are, I enjoy them, and that's all that really matters to me. So hope you guys enjoy it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, leave some feedback. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, and see you guys next week.